Deep in the heart of western Massachusetts in the year 1921, a hero and my great-uncle was born, and his name was Auge woicekoski. Ever since he was a young boy, Auge woicekoski, who took on the nickname Augie, was eager for a chance to help protect the wonderful nation that he lived in. However, he had to wait until the year 1939 to do this. This was the year of his 19th birthday and also the start of the Second World War. He enlisted himself in the Army Air Corps, fought in the Pacific theater of World War II, and lived to tell his tale. I will be sharing with you his documented personal experiences in the Second World War. It was the year 1939, the same year Auge enlisted when World War II began. Hitler and the German-controlled Central Powers suddenly awoke from their short slumber since the First World War, and once again began to aggressively expand and take over the surrounding European countries in an attempt to spread their fascist beliefs. Hitler's actions, and especially his invasion of Poland, immersed the entirety of the European countries into war. China was also immersed in war as it was engulfed in a crippling civil war at this time. Japan saw this stratification in China as an opportunity for invasion and Japanese expansionism. The Japanese wanted to expand because they saw China as a limitless supply of raw materials and as a new and expanded market for these goods. The Japanese invaded the entirety of China, raped and killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, and spread their fascist beliefs in the process. At this time, America wished to uphold George Washington's aspirations for neutrality. But due to the violent and inhumane war practices and their actions to spread their extreme fascist beliefs by both the Japanese and German governments, America felt that a course of action was necessary. These actions included American embargoes against the Japanese, the conversion of American factories to produce military war products, and the enlistment of hundreds of thousands of men, which included Auge woicekoski. However, these actions only scared the Japanese. It caused them to fear the effects of the American embargoes, and also the possibility of an American invasion. It was these fears that caused them to think of America as an enemy, so consequently they devised their plans for the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Any young man between the ages of 17 and 26 can enlist in the Army.
Auge woicekoski was 19 when he decided to get off of the tobacco farm where he worked in Hadley and enlist into the Army Air Corps, which was the predecessor to today's Air Force. He enlisted on June 10, 1939, even though America was not yet involved in the war in Europe. He said that he wasn't even sure if there would be a war, but that it didn't matter because either way he still would have enlisted. He said that he did it because it made him feel like he was making a difference in the world. Auge was first stationed at Fisher's Island in New York, where he trained in military aircraft and played football. But Auge said that he always dreamed of being stationed in Hawaii. You know, because of the hula girls, he said. Well, one day, Auge got his wish. A friend of his, who he met playing football, got him transferred to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii in 1940. It was here that Auge was trained to be a radio operator and a tail gunner for B-24 Liberator bombers.
Powered by four 1,200 horsepower air-cooled engines, the lift can carry 10 men, 4 tons of bombs, and 5,000 rounds of machine gun ammunition at better than 300 miles per hour.
December 7th, 1941. Auge woicekoski was lying around after an early breakfast. He was deciding whether or not he should go to Mass. when he heard what he thought was dive bombing practice by the Navy. But he soon realized that they were actually under attack by the Japanese.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
When I interviewed my Uncle Augie a couple years ago, he said that on the morning of December 7th, he felt the rumbling of the airplanes passing by, but that he didn't think anything of it, as it was nothing out of the ordinary because planes pass by all the time. But then, one moment later, he looked over and saw the USS Arizona was in flames.
Augie said that he could feel the Japanese fighter planes, which they called Zeros, strafing by and firing a seemingly limitless amount of bullets. And then he described how the harbor erupted in chaos, and everyone around him was too shocked to react.
Augie explained how all the guns were locked up in a small building outside in the open, just outside of the barracks. An officer told him to go out and unlock the building and get the guns, but he didn't obey. And luckily for him, he didn't, because as the soldiers who did go out to get the weapons were killed by the ceaseless Japanese gunfire. My Uncle Augie instead survived the attack by taking cover by some cement stairs by the barracks and waited until it was safe to move around.
Time went by and the bombing did not stop. Augie said that it seemed like the attack lasted for days, when in reality it was only for a couple of hours. When the bombing was finally over, Augie stepped outside of the bunker from which he was taking cover and saw the ruins of the harbor.
My Uncle Augie remembered vividly the black smoke that was pouring out of the sunken ships and the destroyed building. He said that this thick smoke was everywhere.
Luckily for Augie, the attack on Pearl Harbor was over. Sadly, this was not the last of Augie's troubling experiences, because after the attack on Pearl Harbor, America declared war on Japan. Augie was assigned to fly a B-24 Liberator called the Kansas Cyclone. The plane is known for its bold nose art, which shows a cyclone smashing into an outhouse with a Japanese person running away, pulling up his pants. On the Kansas Cyclone, Augie was one of 12 people assigned to the plane, and one of 3 gunners. Augie said that the only reason he was chosen to fly in this bomber was because nobody else wanted to be a gunner, as they are the ones who get shot at due to their minimal amount of protection from the enemy. Despite this, Augie was still glad to be in the air. Throughout his career in the Kansas Cyclone, he and the rest of his crew went on approximately 20 missions, but one in particular stayed with him. December 23rd, 1943. The Kansas Cyclone went on a bombardment mission with 7 other planes. They were told the mission would be quick and that the Japanese wouldn't even know that they were there. But right when they reached their target, a fleet of Japanese Zeros started to attack them. 3 of the American planes were damaged and could not keep up with the group, but the Kansas Cyclone and the rest of the fleet were forced to continue, as the Air Corps regulations state that you are on your own if your plane is damaged. The 3 other damaged planes were all destroyed, and the 30 men on board all died.
Uncle Augie said the Japanese Zeros continued to attack the remaining 5 American planes and began to shoot at them. During the attack, the Kansas Cyclone was hit by one of the shells, which lodged itself inside the plane directly at the feet of Uncle Augie. Luckily for him, it was a faulty shell and did not explode.
All of the remaining 5 planes made it back safely. Unfortunately for Augie, that was the last of his near-death experiences in the war, so he managed to survive until the end of the war in 1945. Augie then left the Air Force and went back home to Northampton, Massachusetts, to live with his friends and family. Augie is still alive today at the age of 92 years old. It is an honor to be related to him, and he is one of the most heroic people I have ever met.